Hoga.
Namaste and welcome to the podcast we like to call the Unskippables, where we discuss brand stories and ad campaigns you just can't skip.
Yeah, that's right. This is episode 3, and today we're gonna talk about iconic behavioral reform campaigns. Yeah, we've been waiting for this conversation for a while. A lot more content on behavior is gonna hit you on this podcast for sure, right? And be sure to check our caption for all the links to all the campaigns that we're going to talk about today, right?
That's
Over to
right.
you, Nikita, for to begin the entire thing. Yeah,
So I think the whenever we talk about behavioral campaigns, one of the most iconic ads that has stayed with us is undoubtedly the 2002 campaign, which was around AIDS awareness, and none other than I think we all remember the name in our memories. Somewhere that name has stuck with us. It's called the Balbir Pasha ko AIDS Hoga Kya campaign. And to all the especially who have grown up seeing this ad, it was one of the iconic ad campaigns which went on for a while, and they came up with multiple films around this. One of them also starred Nawazuddin Siddiqui, by the way. So yeah, I think we should, without wasting any more time, we should look into the campaign, what it is.
yeah.
ए मिर्ची बलबीर पाशा का एड्स होगा क्या?
ये रेगुलर के पास जाएगा तो एड्स नहीं होएगा।
बिना कॉन्डोम के भी?
ये रेगुलर के पास कंडम काय को मांगता?
अरे रेगुलर सिर्फ बलबीर पाशा होगा क्या? उसके जैसे हजारों हैं जो रेगुलर होंगे एक लड़की के साथ। अगर उनमें से एक को एड्स हुआ ना तो सोच बलबीर पाशा का क्या होगा।
बलबीर पाशा हर बार कॉन्डोम पहनता है क्या? बलबीर पाशा को एड्स होगा क्या?
Yeah, I mean, Balbir Pasha is really taught in advertising colleges and schools. So, I mean, it's a great campaign to discuss, and because what they really did, okay, very intuitively and very nicely, was take all of the myths, the common myths that people tell themselves, converse with, other colleagues, other people who they interact with, and really these myths are floated around just like the fake WhatsApp messages that they float around today. Back in the day, conversations about sex, about condoms, about AIDS, about sexual health was always like this, right? And it's a beautiful campaign that it really got people to take notice and start this entire conversation about Balbir Pasha ko AIDS hoga kya. I mean, the success of any campaign is based on whether or not it's popular enough to become part of popular culture. And if Amul, the iconic brand, uses you in their topical commentary, then definitely that's a campaign to reckon with. And there are a lot of there was a creative that I remember that Amul had put together of Balbir Pasha referencing the entire campaign, right? So I think the next campaign that we need to talk about when it comes to behavioral reforms, and where one campaign of AIDS was, it took it head on. The other campaign actually said, okay, what's the biggest thing that's taboo to kind of talk about? And it was undoubtedly condoms, right? The word condom was something that people refrained from using. It was called things like topi, chatri, given so many of these names, and a campaign that kind of put it right there in your face was the condom campaign, right? So without further ado, we play that brilliant condom ad for you right here.
वाह बेटा, नया फोन।
देखिए चाचा जी,
देखिए देखिए
ये बात कॉन्डम मतलब समझदारी और जो समझा वही सिकंदर।
रिंगटोन के लिए एसएमएस करें कॉन्डम 56676787 पर या फ्री डाउनलोड करिए condom.org से।
अब इन्हें भी रिंगटोन दीजिए ना।
सबको दे दो।
So I think what a brilliant way to bust a taboo, just by introducing a ringtone. Like how much audacity do you need to do something like that? There's a word in the market which people refer to by like the words you said, topi and chhatri, and they are not even comfortable in saying it out loud to the chemist, or even a lot of times amongst the partners. Among within families outside, they want to keep it under hush hush, and this ad comes here and talks about it, like how they're singing it. There was another ad which was which showed a match of kabaddi, where our protagonist jumps into the game saying condom, 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 and the whole idea of mard nahi bolega to kaun bolega. It's sort of the behavioral the behavior over here that they're trying to attack is the mard angle to it, the ego that comes either with saying condom or with buying condom. And over here they have exactly tapped it and said that you are a mard. If you are not going to say it, then who will come and say it for you? And I think that is a beautiful way of doing it. Also, I think when you talk about behavioral reforms, one of the best ways to judge it is what kind of behavioral change it actually made in the market. And there is a data that says that after the ringtone came out, there was in fact a 5% increase in the sales of condom. Now it may sound very less, 5% doesn't sound like a huge number, but in a country like India, where people were not even talking about condoms or not even calling it out for what it is, people have started buying condoms just by a 30 seconder or just by a ringtone. And there were a lot of downloads that happened, in fact, of the ringtone itself. People were enjoying the ringtone.
I think 5 lakh downloads is what happened.
5 lakh downloads. So yeah, I think it's a brilliant way. And the interesting part is how Balbir Pasha tried to induce a change by getting into the space of fear, although they were also trying to bust a myth that I cannot be over here. These people took the condom ad, tried to get into a comedy space, in a more fun space, and try to bust a myth. Both are right ways of going about, and both worked really well. But there are several ways of tapping a behavioral change. What do you think, Raghav?
Absolutely. I think undoubtedly behavioral change doesn't have a one size fits all solution. I mean, there are different ways to poke at a problem, and I think that's what we're here for, right? Creativity has the power to solve so many problems, and how can we be more creative and understand what is that conversation that will spark this behavioral change, right?
Another campaign that tried to change something with amongst the society, amongst it could be anyone for that matter, and the change was about that there is something that we all witness in our daily lives, and we don't know what to do about it. We really want to stop this act which is very unpleasant. We are not very happy to see it, and we genuinely want to stop it, but we didn't have a way to stop it. And this next campaign, which is called the Bell Bajao campaign, gave us sort of a tool to do something and change it. So let's see what the campaign was.
दूध, थोड़ा दूध मिलेगा?
Bring domestic violence to a halt. Ring the bell.
What a beautiful insight, and what a campaign that really brought that insight to life and told a beautiful story. I mean, multiple beautiful stories. I think when we're talking about behavioral reform, this is a campaign that challenged the behavior called bystander effect, right? It's this whole funda of how we stop and watch when an accident happens, right? It's we are the bystanders, and we are creating that traffic jam, and we are witnessing that jam, right? And a similar thing happens when you encounter situations like domestic violence, right? As a bystander, as a spectator, right, of the spectacle that's happening, you don't know what to do, you don't know what to say, and it's an uncomfortable place. And imagine if you are that uncomfortable, how is the woman who's enduring that domestic violence feeling, right? Definitely an important campaign, an important message, and a clear call to action, right? It told people what to do to stop the injustice, and I think it's a beautiful campaign. Bell Bajao really was one of the campaigns that definitely needs that recognition. What do you think, Nikita?
I do agree. I think one of the problems in our society when we are watching someone fight, and be it domestic violence or be it any kind of violence that we see, even on the streets, we really want to stop it. Our first immediate reaction is that we want to put a halt to this, but we don't know how. And because we don't know how, either we struggle to look for a way, a tool to stop it, or we just stay away from it. And especially when it comes to domestic violence, people usually choose to stay away from it because they don't want to meddle with anything and don't want to get into the mess. So, bell
Yeah,
bajao, or, for that matter, even if you are someone who is sitting inside the house and watching something like this unpleasant happening, the messaging is just go and put a stop to it by distracting them, by doing something that distracts
absolutely.
them and that breaks the continuity of that action that is happening.
Not only distracts them, but it also tells them that you're hearing what is happening, right? You're
Right.
aware that there's you're shouting, and you're listening. That's what you want to tell him.
Yeah.
uh, I mean, now that we talked about Bell Bajao, I think the next campaign that we need to talk about is End Acid Sale. But and I don't know if you know Makeup Tips by Reshma, right? End Acid Sale was the campaign, and what a beautiful campaign. Let's take a look at uh, the
Definitely.
videos once.
हाय एवरीवन, आज मैं आपको सिखाने वाली हूँ सिर्फ एक स्टेप में आईलाइनर लगाना। सबसे पहले सर को बेंड करें और नीचे देखें। इससे आईज रिलैक्स होंगी और आईलाइनर लगाना आसान हो जाएगा। ब्रश को टेढ़ा करके पकड़िए, इससे स्ट्रोक्स लगाना आसान होता है। छोटे स्ट्रोक्स लगाइए और धीरे धीरे रिपीट कीजिए। तो है ना रेडी? और हाँ, सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट टिप, ये आईलाइनर आपको 100 रुपए में कहीं भी मिल जाएगा। पर क्या आपको पता है, एसिड सिर्फ 30 रुपए में मिलता है, जिसकी वजह से हर रोज एक लड़की एसिड अटैक की विक्टिम बनती है। तो इस लिंक पर क्लिक कीजिए और एसिड की ओपन सेल पर बैन लागू करवाने में हमारी मदद कीजिए।
I think a perfect example of irony and the way they have used this is also beautiful. Uh, the first campaign, the first brand to ever show an acid attack victim on the billboards placed in the center of the city. The first model with an acid attacked face who is going on TV, who is going on digital films and talking about beauty tips. So I think the insight came from that usually people are going on YouTube and checking out these vlogs where people are talking about beauty tips, makeup tips, how to do
Yeah.
makeups. And it will actually be shocking. Like the opening shot is so shocking that an acid attack victim is coming and teaching you how to do makeup. And while it in itself, even if it doesn't deliver a message towards the end, I think in itself it works really well because it's telling you so much that you want to learn, just by the opening shot of it. So I think really beautifully done. And the beauty, again, like I said, I think the one thing that worked over here, and the one thing that tells us that what is the power of a behavioral reform campaign, is that the states actually acknowledged what they were trying to do. They actually started putting ban on acid sales, and a lot of people came into the support of it. A lot of celebrities came into supporting the campaign. And the best part is that they were looking at thousands petitions, but by the end of it, they got 3 lakh something petitions signed out of it. So I think that is when you understand, when others start talking about your campaign, is when you understand that something right has been done. What do you think, Raghav?
No, absolutely. I agree with everything that you've said. In fact, two seemingly disconnected things, bringing them together, right? One is makeup, which is a topic of conversation, and kind of content that you consume on YouTube, and a completely different thing, which is awareness about acid being sold in the public market so freely, and combining those two things together and actually doubling that up as a call to action is such an innovative way to like look at the entire problem, right? That is real creativity coming together to solve a big problem. I feel. Yeah,
That's right. I also think one of the things that I found really beautiful about this campaign, one of my favorite takeaways from here, is that how beautifully they have given the message that acid sale is available. They are not trying to be preachy. They're not trying to tell you, teach you something, and they're not even trying to bring in the conversation of what acid is, what acid does. They have just kept it, they have slipped it in very, very casually towards the end, and they are
yeah,
assuming that, because you have seen the entire video, what acid attack is all about, what an acid
yeah,
can do to your face. And
yeah,
I think it's a very powerful thing. Sometimes you just need one shot or one line to change a behavior, and that's the beauty of advertising. That's the beauty of the creatives working in the field. And one such campaign has been one of the most popular sanitary napkin campaigns that tried to break a taboo and break a consistently long running taboo and practice around isolation and discrimination with women while they were on their periods. And that campaign is hashtag touch the pickle. I can never forget this campaign. It has been very close to my heart. So what do you say, we should go and check this out?
yeah.
She touched the pickle.
She touched the pickle. Oh yes, she did.
अरे हाँ बाबा, she touched the pickle.
Yeah, she touched the pickle.
I touched the pickle. Periods के दिनों में कहते हैं don't wear whites, don't go out, don't play, don't touch the pickle. I say girls, let's break the taboos. Go ahead and touch the pickle. Whisper, कदम बढ़ाए जा.
Classically, when you take something which is taboo and get the person who thinks of it as the most taboo to do it, right? That's when you break that code. So I mean, one of the most important things I noticed in the whole thing is that the grandmom says she touched the pickle, right? And she says it with a grin on her face, right? And that's the it says so much, right? It says so much with so little. And I think that's the magic in this whole campaign, that not only are you questioning a taboo or you're challenging the taboo itself, but you're also getting the kind of TG, the kind of person who this behavior is very, very kind of embedded in, to be the person to start it. And then everyone says touch the pickle, touch the pickle. It normalizes that entire conversation, right? So I love this campaign, honestly. What do you think about it?
I think the time it came around the early after 2010, and I think it was about time that someone like a sanitary napkin company should come and talk about it, talk about the taboos, and the huge problem I see in this issue, and why I feel it was so important to talk about it finally is because this is observed in the most high class societies, the most modern societies, the so-called educated societies, urban class societies of our world. Whisper being catering to such sections. We feel that Whisper had to make step up and make this conversation. I think at some point I also expect the sanitary napkins in other who are catering to other SECs. They should also be able to come out and talk about it with such glory and with such power. And I think this campaign, why it's so special, even with just one line, touch the pickle, is because touch the pickle is just the beginning of the change that they are trying to induce. I think they have already covered 4 or 5 things that girls are asked not to do, like wearing white clothes, don't do this, don't do that, don't go out, don't
Yeah.
run too much. Of course there are much more, and they probably stayed away from them to avoid any kind of controversy. My favorite part of the campaign is where the girl actually tears the newspaper cover, and a very
Mhm.
interesting visual way of showing what, copy wise they have delivered what they had to deliver, but visually also they have given a very important message that it's not
Yeah,
something to be
yeah.
covered. So yeah, I really enjoy this campaign. One of the reasons why I am today here in advertising is because of this campaign. It got me inspired.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. I think, Touch the Pickle is a wonderful campaign. But the next thing that we're going to talk about is not really a campaign, right? It's more of a behavioral experiment, right? Which, unknowingly delivered some brilliant results. So I want to spend 2 minutes to talk about this, okay? So in Schiphol International Airport, right? They came up with a problem, right? They came up with a problem saying there's in the urinals of Schiphol, in the men's urinals, there's a lot of spillage and leakage, right? And they wanted to cut down on it. They wanted people to piss in the urinals and not outside it, right? And to solve this problem, right? And it's a very interesting challenge to have, right? It's not as easy as sticking a sign saying pee in the urinal. It's not going to change behavior, right?
Men will be
So
men.
because men will be men, but that's a campaign for another day.
Yeah.
So Schiphol International Airport, what they did was very, very simple. And let's see if you can spot it in this visual that we'll show you.
Now, if you haven't, I would just like to say that I think, I don't know why, but personally, I feel this campaign idea came from a woman. Because, how tough it could be for a woman to go through this every day while we are talking about men's sanitary hygiene issues. I think more than men, it's the women of the house who has to bear with it. That you can't aim. That's such a that's a huge thing that they have to make an entire campaign around that a man cannot aim, and what all
No,
they
it
have to
wasn't a
do to
campaign. It wasn't a campaign. It was just an experiment. But yeah, yeah.
but
I
yeah, like
mean,
you
go
have
ahead.
to apply so much of brains just to make a man aim. And like you just now saw in the visual, that's exactly what they did. And if you have missed it out, here's what they did. They put a sticker of a fly inside the urinal, and it's
Yeah,
amazing, it's amazing how it has worked. Now the theory behind it was that usually men like to aim, but they like to aim at things, and they wanted something to aim at. Now they could have placed anything. They could have placed probably a particle, a blot, a spot, or it could have been something as big as a spider, a chipkali for that matter. It could have been anything. But why a fly? Now, I think why a fly, and I don't think this is what they said later on, that, fly is harmless. At the same time, it's irritating. And at the same time, it's very small. So you have something to aim at. And at the same time, it's not something that's going to scare you away from using the urinal. At the same time, it's irritating. So you definitely want to aim at it without feeling guilty about it. So,
Absolutely.
and that's what the campaign did. And it's
No, but
amazing.
it's so intelligent, right? It's so intelligent of them to have thought of such a small intervention could give you such a big result, right? I think the result was 80% it came down by. Imagine that. 80%, right? It's a huge number, and with such a small intervention.
Yeah. And
I
it's such a
mean,
great
amazing.
insight. I mean, just the insight, which I think most of us can just ignore. But the insight that, if I am to say as a woman, for me the insight will be that men will be men. But if I get into the creative's point of view, or the strategist point of view, I think the insight was that men like to aim at something, and let's give them to something to aim at. I think
Yeah.
it's such a powerful insight, such a small insight, and yet it has worked brilliantly. The experiment worked out so well that they won lots and lots of awards. I think next campaign was done very intelligently. The idea was to take hygiene, again in the space of hygiene, to take hygiene from urban to rural places, and even to places where they don't have access to hand soaps or liquid soaps or soaps in any way, to places like a normal village school where you don't usually find a hand wash. They tried to take their hand wash, which was handy and effective at the same time. So I'm talking about the Savlon chalk sticks, very innovative, very, it's like a brilliant case study, and it has won many awards. So let's look at the campaign.
Kids explore the world with their hands. In India, they use their hands for one more thing: eating food. Not washing their hands with soap is one of the main causes for illnesses and dropouts.
वो पानी में हाथ डालता है और अपने कपड़े से ही पूछता है। छोटे बच्चे हैं, उसे जल्दी भूख लगती है। साबुन वापरतात का? नहीं। कोई आदत नहीं होती, घर में भी माँ बाप को नहीं सिखाते, इसलिए सब बच्चे ये नहीं सीख सकते।
So we gave shape to a simple idea. We infused chalk sticks with soap. Introducing Savlon Healthy Hands Chalk Sticks. These work just like regular chalk sticks. But at lunch break, they did more than just writing. The chalk powder turned into soap on its own. Kids' health will now be in good hands, their own.
Yeah, I mean, what a brilliant campaign. I remember, back in the day when I was in Ogilvy, we used to talk about Savlon chalk sticks all the time and the
All
case
the time.
study. And it's again, it's always when you break the clutter and when you do something completely refreshing is when you get talked about. I think as a marketer we need to always remember this. And Savlon's intervention with okay, children use chalk, so can we make chalk a soap carrier, right? And an agent which will instantly, when you introduce water to it, it will lather up and it'll make sure your hands are clean, right? And the combining that with the insight that in schools, in uh, you know uh, in schools in India, in rural India, they actually do use chalk. Is very, very beautiful. One of my favorite campaigns is definitely Savlon chalk sticks, and like you rightly said, it's won many awards. It's done a lot of it's brought Savlon a lot of laurels. Definitely.
I think
What did you think?
I think my favorite part of this whole campaign is that what it ended up doing was it actually made sense to the community they were trying to cater to at that point. Imagine people who don't have access to soaps. Finally, their kids were washing hands, and it maybe for a small time they had access to this product, but definitely induced a habit, and they made these people, first of all, educated them towards something, and second of all, made them habitual of using soap before eating, and in such a fun way that kids would actually want to do this. They wouldn't think of it as something being told by my mom and that's why I have to do it. It would be a fun product for them to use. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that was brilliant to do.
Yeah. Largely these were some campaigns that we wanted to definitely talk about, but there's so many more, right? That we all love, that have made a big impact in, channeling or changing so many behaviors. One that I can think of is definitely Pulse Polio,
Oh,
right? The
definitely.
Amitabh Bachchan campaign, where it's all about come, you have the it's you're responsible, and such a relevant campaign to actually talk about in today's day and age, and the relevance it has to the vaccine that we have right now, the COVID vaccine, and how people are getting I think that's an important conversation for us to even talk about, right? There are a lot of people who are saying that I'll wait for some time before taking the vaccine, right? And if there's some learnings that we can definitely draw from Pulse Polio, it's to give people the reassurance that nothing's going to happen, right? It's all safe, and I think that's an important message that we need to give, at least to the people who are not open to going and getting vaccinated today, in today's day and age. Yeah.
I think not just Pulse Polio. I think Amitabh Bachchan has been the face of talking about these important, challenging health issues ever
Absolutely.
since this campaign did well. And one of the reasons why he was chosen was because of his sudden fame that he got a shot of after 2000, and which is why also he became the voice that he was. He became so influential for people. And I think today also we are somewhere trying to do that, while we are using him during the COVID. I hope his voice is inspiring a lot of people. But the intelligent pick of the artist or the voice that we are doing, maybe it would change with time, and the relevance of the person who is coming and delivering that message changes with time. But it makes a huge difference when we are trying to communicate something so important. And not just when
Yeah.
it comes to vaccine. I think with respect to the situation where we are in today, the whole hue and cry around COVID, the fear that comes with COVID, and along with that, the misinformation or the lack of information that we have. I think one of the biggest problems is that there are a lot of campaigns being done. A lot of them are talking about social problems. A lot of them are trying to target wearing a mask. But there is so much learning that we can draw from all of these campaigns. I think the way to tap
Yeah,
a
tell me
social.
about it. Tell me about it. Mask penna is such an important thing, and even today, when you look outside the window, when you step outside, you find so many people not wearing their masks, right? How can we really make it of paramount importance to communicate to them, and how do we really change their behavior? Something that we should draw learnings from all of these campaigns, right? How have they used creativity to land that message? How can we use creativities to solve problems of today's day and age,
And I
right?
think it is
uh,
needed now because it's not
Definitely.
just about giving a behavioral response, reform. It's also about educating people with what is correct and what is not. And when the education is done well, I think the reform shows. It shows in the behavior of people. It shows in their habits, and you will collectively see the nation changing and the way they are behaving will be changed. And I think the more creatively you are able to do it, see, there is not just one way of doing it, that you come and preach and you give a message. There is not just one way of inducing fear, like a lot of campaigns may do, but there are interesting ways of doing it also. Even when you are inducing fear, that could also be done in a very interesting way that stays with people, and people want to watch the entire campaign.
I mean, inducing, when you're saying inducing the fear, the only campaign that comes to my mind is Mukesh, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Hands down. That's the
we're
campaign
laughing,
that scares
and
me the most.
yeah, I mean, for I think Mukesh really was operating on the inside that if we scare people, they're going to get scared, and I think that is a strategy that I don't know if it may or may not, if it has or has not worked, right? But a clear example of it not having worked is, I think, on the cigarette packets, you're putting such gruesome imagery, right? Have cigarette sales really plummeted? Have they dropped? I don't know. I mean, I'm asking these questions, right? As marketers, we need to ask the right questions so that you come up with actually initiatives that end a certain behavior, like the Schiphol airport. It is not about education there or scare tactic there. It is a simple intervention which operated on a human insight that was unearthed, right? So I think definitely Mukesh is an example of fear tactics
I
going
think
on
one
here.
thing that they have tried to they have tried to pivot from the exactly showing the diseased face and the extremely emotional aspect and fearful aspect of the ad with the new Akshay Kumar ad, and I think
Akshay Kumar
they
ad.
have made an attempt to show the different side of it, that it's actually expensive. You are actually wasting your money, which you can probably use with treatment of your wife while she's actually suffering from something, or to provide her sanitary napkin. So they
Yeah,
are also pivoting slightly because probably they may have felt that it's not working
felt the
the way they
same
want
thing.
to.
Yeah,
But the kind of
probably.
audience that they are trying to cater to with such ads may be the two ideologies of the two campaigns. I hope it has some sort of impact on them and it works.
Yeah,
But other than that, also I feel even like if we talk about when we spoke of Whisper, I feel the entire sanitary napkin category, as a category, it has been such a behavioral reform category. The first time that a
yeah,
Whisper ad came up, and that time Whisper was not what it is today. It did not have the kind of, that we are going to only target this kind of an audience, or even for that matter, Stay Free or Kotex. And they all came up telling you, and this is like when I was growing up, I was seeing these ads even then in the early 2000s, which where they were talking about kapda is not a good thing, it's unhygienic, and go and try out sanitary napkin, they are safe, they are hygienic. Now there is another reform in after 2020, we are seeing a lot of ads coming up which talk about don't use pads, now use tampons or use cups, because now we have evolved, and now the behavioral change has to be with respect to other things, climate change for
right.
that matter, don't use so much of plastic. So I think I feel the entire category has been dedicated to reform, because there
Reforming
is,
behavior one after
yeah,
another, right?
no,
Yeah, I think
around
so.
sanitary napkin, around my menstrual hygiene for women, because it's so less talked about and there's such
I
less.
feel the same about hand hygiene, for example, right? The biggest wave hit us when COVID happened, right? But the Swachh Bharat mission, the work that Dettol, Lifebuoy have done in the past, that entire category as well is a very, very big, and a constantly attempting to change or reform behavior,
Right.
right?
With the
So
hand
yeah,
move, haath, and
yeah,
haath
haath muh
move
bum.
bum, haath move bum, and even that the guy who is walking on his hands because his son has survived diarrhea and other kinds
Correct,
of problems.
correct.
I mean, they are
Another
shocking insights that they are coming out with.
Definitely, like another category similar which suffers from a similar problem is the the harpic category, the bathroom cleaning category, right? That also suffers from it. And if I remember correctly, they did one campaign which reformed behavior from being a woman's job to a man's job very recently with Akshay Kumar again. And they did Kamal Hassan in the south and all of that. So I think a lot of learnings from these successful campaigns that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
and
one also campaign that I would like to thank before we end our episode. Why thank
Yeah,
is because we need this kind of a behavioral reform at least now, today, when we are suffering from an economical crisis. And it's the Mutual Fund Sahi Hai campaign, which I feel has been very successful. I don't know how much successful, but I feel they have been very efficient at breaking myths around mutual fund and the
100%.
fear that comes in and the confusions that people have, and in such simple messaging. The
Yeah,
message that they've used is so simple and so on point. They are only saying mutual fund sahi hai, and then they are trying to answer a question. I think again,
yeah.
something
No,
done very
definitely.
simplistically, very
Amphika
beautiful.
campaign is a great example. I think mutual fund sahi hai. Financial behaviors ka reform, again, a beautiful
Totally.
campaign. Definitely. I think we're running out of time for this episode. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. We had a lovely time talking about all of these campaigns. Tell us what you think were your favorite ones and add on to the list in the comment section below.
And we will be adding the links to all these campaigns, so do go and check them out and let us know which one did you like the most. Don't forget to share this video if you liked it, and follow us, of course. Follow us everywhere. We are on YouTube, on Instagram, on Spotify, everywhere. And do
Yep.
share it, do comment, and do like our episode if you liked it. This is me, Nikita, signing off.
This is me, Raghav, signing off until next time. See you guys.